What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the J All Day NFL Show. In today's episode, we're going to go over whether or not your favorite NFL team is a contender or a pretender going into 2025, guys. I'm really excited, man. We're like, 40 days or less away from kickoff. We got the Hall of Fame game coming up on Thursday. I am stoked. If you want more NFL content, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us get into YouTube's algorithm. So we got 8 teams. When's the draft? Because we have zero chance, legitimately zero chance of making the playoffs or contending for a championship here in 2025. The next tier is mid-AF. 10 teams there, and then we have 6 teams that have the potential to go on a run if they stay healthy and the team really starts to gel. But for me, guys, I think there are 8 teams in the NFL this year that have a legitimate chance at competing for a Super Bowl. Make sure you stick around for the video to see what teams make that top 8 contenders for 2025. All right, let's start with the when's the draft category. These are all the Bush League bum teams that have no chance of making the playoffs and have zero chance of competing for a Super Bowl here in 2025. We're going to start with the Browns. They have no quarterback. Kenny Pickett got hurt. Joe Flacco's a million years old. And they got Shedeur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, and a bunch of guys on offense that are not very good. Next up, the Titans. Will Levis is done for the year. They just got Cam Ward and then a bunch of nobodies. This team's not ready to compete. Pretty mediocre offensive line, in my opinion. So, the Jaguars. I'm just not a believer in Trevor Lawrence, man. I don't think football is his number one priority, and I think they're going to finish in the bottom of the league. They lose Evan Ingram, one of the biggest targets for Trevor Lawrence over the last few seasons. I don't think it goes well for the Jaguars here. Next up, we got the Miami Dolphins, one of the worst secondaries I've seen in the NFL in a very long time. They lose Jalen Ramsey. Javon Holland is gone. It's not looking good at all for Miami. And I don't think the locker room's gelling right now. I think their head coach is on the bubble as well. Next up is the Jets. Justin Fields dislocates his toe. I just don't think this team is very good. I don't believe in Justin Fields. If you watch my channel, I'm not a big fan of his. I don't think he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. And the defense was pretty mediocre last year. They got a new head coach. I think they're, a 6-ish win team, give or take a couple. And then next up on this list on teams that are looking forward to the draft, the Carolina Panthers. They are between when's the draft and mid-AF. The offense actually looks semi-decent, right? Bryce Young had a really good second half. They bring in Tedero and McMillan in the draft. This team is definitely on the ascension when you look at all these teams. And next up is the Giants, right? Russell Wilson's towards the end of his career, guys. He's just, he is what he is. But I do like the Giants front seven. Abdul Carter, Brian Burns. I think they could be a little bit better than people think, but they have no chance of competing for a Super Bowl or really a playoff spot this year, in my opinion. And last but not least on this tier, is that all of them? I think so, is the Saints. They might not win a game this year at all. They are horrible, especially at the quarterback spot. Tyler Shook, in last year's draft, he's probably a 3rd, 4th, 5th round pick at best. Spencer Rattler's not very good. Alvin Kamara's getting older. They got a new head coach in Kellen Moore. I don't think that the Saints win more than 3 games this year. It's going to be terrible. All right, let's move on to the mid-AF tier. We got the Atlanta Falcons. They were really struggling last year getting after the quarterback, so they brought in James Pierce Jr. and Jalen Walker to help kind of mitigate those inefficiencies last year. What will Michael Penix Jr. look like here in 2025, being the head guy at the quarterback position this year? Kirk Cousins moves to the bench. They're going to be okay. Maybe a 500-ish team, maybe 1 game over. We'll have to see where that all shakes out. Next up, for me, guys, in this mid-AF range is the Arizona Cardinals. The defense did make some improvements this year, bringing in Josh Sweat and Will Johnson and Walter Nolan. I think they'll be better than they were last year, but still in the middle of the pack for me going into the 2025 season. Next up is the Seahawks. No more DK Metcalf, no more Tyler Lockett, a mid-offensive line with Sam Darnold now at the quarterback position, no Geno Smith. A lot of moving parts on offense. I think the defense will be okay, but they're going to struggle to score points in my opinion. Next up is the 49ers. This team is not the 49ers of years past. Every year that goes by, the core gets a little bit older. On the PUP list, Brandon Ayuk, Ricky Pearsall, Juwan Jennings is like the only guy left. I mean, the offensive line is okay. Trent Williams is a million years old. A lot of things have to go right if they want to be a good team this year. I just don't see it happening. That's why the 49ers are on my mid list here, guys. Next up is the New England Patriots, just coming out of when's the draft, mainly because of that defense and Drake May. The defense is really, 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 really good. I think with Mike Vrabel being the head coach there, this team is going to be better than the when's the draft teams. And if everything goes perfect, maybe they sneak in for a wild card spot. I don't think so. I don't think this offense is going to be efficient enough to do that. And if Drake May goes down, this team is going to be in deep, deep doo-doo. All right, next up on this tier list is the Colts. I think Shane Steichen is on the hot seat. Anthony Richardson is already airmailing balls in camp. He looks horrific. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Daniel Jones is the guy on opening day. Their offense is okay. Jonathan Taylor, I don't know if he's as good as he was at one point. They do have a pretty good offensive line and a mid-ish defense for me. I just think they're a mediocre team. They're probably a 7-8 win team in my opinion. Next up is the Dallas Cowboys, getting crushed by injuries already. Carson, the cornerback, got hurt today. Tyler Guyton got hurt. He's out for several weeks with a fracture in his knee. ACL is intact, but that offensive line is young and inexperienced. It doesn't look good for the Cowboys. They can't stop the run either on defense, right? Next up for me in this tier is the Raiders. I think they're a mid-team. They bring in Geno Smith. They bring in a new head coach there as well. Pete Carroll, they bring in Chip Kelly to call the plays, right? So we'll have to see how that shakes out there. Christian Wilkins got cut. Outside of Max Crosby, that defensive line doesn't scare me at all whatsoever. That's why they land in this mid-AF tier. Next up on this tier list, guys, is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Aaron Rodgers is getting older and older and older and older. He's like, 41? That's too old. He's very limited what he can do in his mobility in the pocket. The core of this defense, Cameron Hayward, Darius Slay, TJ Watt, definitely older than I would like to see that core. It's a share get off the pot year for them, in my opinion. And once again, if anything happens to Aaron Rodgers, this team is really going to struggle at the quarterback position for sure. Next up on this mid list is the Chicago Bears. On paper, they look great, but Ben Johnson, you could see his frustrations already with Caleb Williams. His processing just isn't there. That's why I like Jaden Daniels more than Caleb Williams. His ability to deal with adversity, kind of get through his progressions was just better, Jaden Daniels was, in my opinion. So we'll have to see how Caleb Williams and this offense look. They brought in Joe Thuney, Jonah Jackson, Drew Dahlman, the center. The offensive line is there. The skill position guys are there. They got DJ Moore, Rome Odunze. I mean, the list goes on and on. They drafted Colston Loveland. They brought in Luther Burden. I mean, come on. It's just they got enough weapons. Caleb Williams needs to make it happen, guys. Next up, these are the teams, in my opinion, that could go on a run. We're going to first start out with the Minnesota Vikings. 14-3 last year. Solid offensive line, good defense. It's the quarterback play. Can J.J. McCarthy lead this team to victory like Sam Darnold did last year? Sam choked in the playoffs and down the stretch a little bit, but J.J. McCarthy did good things at Michigan. I think they're going to run the offense very similar to that. A lot of play action, run the ball down your throat, win close games. That's going to be the recipe for them this year. And if J.J. can be just as good as Sam Darnold, or if not better, this team will be in contention and could potentially go on a big-time run. Next up is the Texans. It's the offensive line. They live and die with this offensive line. They could be when's the draft and mid-AF. Very, very, very early on into the season, but they have an elite defense and a pretty good head coach and an excellent quarterback. If they could fit, and I love their wide receivers too, man. Jaden Higgins, Nico Collins. If they could figure out this offensive line, make some trades, get some guys off the waiver wire, whatever, patch it up, make it better. They were awful last year. They shipped Tunsil out of town. That's going to be a huge loss. But if they could figure out the O-line, this team could make a run, potentially here in 2025. Next up is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield, they play in a weak division. Tristan Wirfs is going to miss the beginning of the year. That's a huge loss. I love the wide receiver room, Mike Evans. I love Bucky Irving, the running back from Oregon, I believe he was played at. I really liked him coming out of college. He proved me right last year and played exceptionally well last season. They got to stay healthy. The front seven and the secondary has to play better. The linebackers in particular, and then, the safeties for the Buccaneers. Right, but they still got a good roster. Next up is the Bengals. Elite Super Bowl offense. Dumpster fire defense. But they did sign Shamar Stewart, their first round pick. This Trey Hendrickson situation is a huge, huge elephant in the room here in Cincinnati. Their ownership is a complete shit show there. Hire me, Cincinnati, and you will get a Super Bowl contender within 5 years. I guarantee it. But I love the Bengals offense. The offensive line is still, could use some improvement. But with Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, you always got a shot at a Super Bowl ring with those guys. Next up, Green Bay Packers. They bring in Matthew Golden, great separator, can be Jordan Love's true number one wide receiver. I love Josh Jacobs. On the defensive side, Xavier McKinney, Edge Cooper. I think it's a solid unit. Pretty good offensive line as well there in Green Bay. Jordan Love, if he takes a step forward here in 2025, they could actually be contenders. They're close. They were close to making my contenders list here, guys. That's 5 teams. We come down to the last, could go on a run team, and that's the Chargers. Another team, Justin Herbert, shits the bed in the playoffs so far, but he got Ladd McConkey last year, a great outlet there for him, and then they brought in Trey Harris and Omarion Hampton. Things are looking up and up for the Chargers. They could actually be a contender this year. But here are my 8 teams that are contenders. The Detroit Lions still have one of the better rosters in the NFL, led by Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Aiden Hutchinson on the defensive side of the ball. Injuries ravished this team last year. They got 2 new coordinators, but I think they will be just fine. LA Rams, great front 7. Bringing in Devontae Adams with Puka Nacua could be very, very explosive. Buffalo Bills and the Ravens both went super heavy on defense in this year's draft. I think both of them lack a true number 1 X wide receiver. Can Zay Flowers step up? I think they got Hopkins too. I think he's cooked. The Buffalo Bills, I don't know. Can Keon Coleman be a number 1 X wide receiver for them? That remains to be seen. I wish they would have, either of these teams would have went out and got an X, but they did not. And maybe that hurts them on this playoff run. Next up, Denver Broncos, guys. I'm telling you, the Broncos are going to win the AFC West this year. Bo Nix, Sean Payton and company, a top 3 defense, and an improving offense. I love that. Kansas City Chiefs, probably the best coaching staff in football, led by Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo. Patrick Mahomes is the best player in the NFL, but it's not a one-man band. That offensive line needs to step up. Will it step up? Can Pacheco get back to form? And Travis Kelce return to form? We'll have to see. Next up is the Washington Commanders. They added Deebo Samuel. They added Laremy Tunsil. The secondary still scares me a little bit to put them over the edge in the NFC. I think they get exploited by teams like the Philadelphia Eagles, who will still be my favorite to come out of the NFC. Guys, I'm picking Eagles, Ravens in the Super Bowl in 2025-2026 season. There it is, guys. There is my Contenders or Pretenders series here on the J All Day NFL Show. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Peace.